Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm sure you could tell by the title, is going to be about some of the things that I really love about being over the age of 40 and just the aging process in general. You know, I feel like a lot of times we tend to focus on the things that we don't like, you know, especially the physical aspects of aging, you know, basically our faces falling off and our joints giving out on us and stuff like that. But there are actually a lot of things that I love about being the age that I am now. You know, I'm gonna be 45 in about 4 months, so it's really kind of just made me put some things into perspective. I was scrolling through Instagram the other night and I came across this quote, and it said, "How different would our lives be if we obsessed over the things that we actually loved about ourselves?" And I thought, that is such a profound quote or a profound statement, and it can actually apply to so many different areas of our lives, you know, including the aging process. And then I kept scrolling through Instagram and I saw a few video clips by Stung by Samantha. She has a channel here on YouTube, and I really just love her perspective on things. I feel like she has a very positive outlook when it comes to aging and being the age that she is. I think she's 49 years old, and I just really admire that about her. So anyways, those are the things that inspired me to make this video, but I really encourage you to also think about some of the things that you really like about being over the age of 40 and leave them, you know, as a comment in my comment section, because I would love to read them. It might be something that I hadn't even considered, and that's what I love about this channel. You know, we all kind of teach and learn from each other, and I just think that's so wonderful. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so one of the things that I really love about being over the age of 40 is that I'm really just a lot more sure of myself and a lot more confident in who I am and what I bring to the table, and just comfortable with my personality. You know, I feel like whenever I was younger, I was just so unsure of myself. I think we all went through that stage where we just didn't know who we are, what we stood for, you know, what we wanted to represent, you know. And I feel like that's where the error occurred for me, is because I felt like I was always looking to represent myself in a way. You know, I wanted people to see me a certain way. And, you know, one of the things specifically that I remember, and it's kind of silly, but I remember I've always been somebody who's been very focused on, you know, my appearance and stuff like that. But because of that, I feel like I always felt the need to try to prove to everybody that I was actually smart, you know, that I actually had a brain, you know, and that it wasn't just the exterior that I focused on, you know. And I remember being as young as high school and going through the dictionary and writing down words and really trying to crowbar those words into, you know, conversation. Or I would just try to kind of crowbar some information into a conversation that made me kind of look smart. And it was just really silly. But I feel like because I was so focused and so worried about other people's perception of me, they really missed out on who I genuinely was, you know. And they only saw little glimpses of my natural, normal personality. And I feel like, you know, there was a time where I was a little bit of a chameleon. Like whoever I was around, that's who I kind of behaved similar to, you know, and depending on what they valued, that's kind of what I kind of brought to the table. And it was just silly, you know, and I feel like nobody got to really know the core me. And now I don't do that, you know, I do not do that anymore. I feel like I'm very comfortable with who I am. I actually kind of like my personality. I like my, you know, sense of humor. I'm not sure if some people get it. Some people may not think, you know, some of the things that I think are funny, but I'm comfortable with that, and I'm okay with that. And I feel like now that I'm more comfortable with who I am, I feel like I make friends a lot easier, and I feel like I participate in conversation a lot easier. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. All I'm doing is just being myself, and there's just a lot of freedom in that. So that is one of the first things that I really love about being the age that I am. Another thing that I really like about being over the age of 40 is that I know better than to be really vocal about any strong opinion that I have at the moment, because I'm aware now that that strong opinion is subject to change within the next 10 years. I have learned that over the course of my lifetime. There was a time where I felt like my opinion always had to be heard, you know, and my opinion was always, of course, the right opinion, you know. So I was so busy trying to convince people to believe and think the way that I did, and I missed out on learning a lot, because I feel like somebody who's really opinionated is kind of, they close themselves off to learning. I have learned that my opinion, especially if it might insult other people, it does not always need to be heard. You know, if I'm going to share a strong opinion that I think may be offensive to other people, it's going to be with my husband, you know, somebody who is just going to be us two and we're going to discuss it or something like that, or my sisters. But I have learned over the years that I do not need people to think and make decisions and behave the same way that I do. And actually that's the thing that I love most about this world, because there's so much diversity and we all bring something different to the table, and we can all learn from each other as long as we keep ourselves open to learning and not closing ourselves off because we're so, opinionated. So anyways, that's another thing that I love about being over the age of 40. It's just wisdom that comes along with aging. Another thing that I really love about being over the age of 40 is I have learned to be incredibly grateful. There was a time where I took so much for granted, and it's embarrassing. But at this age, I feel like I have learned to be grateful, especially in situations where there may not be a lot to be grateful about. Or, here's a little example, and I know it's a little bit of a silly example, but not too long ago I was bringing home groceries, and I had all the groceries on the counter, and I was trying to make room in the refrigerator to put the groceries. Well, I ended up knocking a big tub of salsa out of the refrigerator, and it landed on the ground and it just splattered everywhere. And then I just thought, oh my God, here goes the next 30 minutes of my life, because I have to sit here and clean it all up, and then I still have to put the groceries away. And I was so upset. And I had been reading this book, I can't remember the name of it right now. What's it called? But anyways, it just made me take that moment and try to find something in that moment to be grateful about. And it was really easy for me to do, and I thought that, how lucky am I? How lucky am I that I've got all these groceries, and that I already have so many groceries, occupying my refrigerator, that I'm having a hard time even making room to put more groceries in, and I thought there's some people in the world that will never have that problem and don't know what it's like to have too many groceries. And it just made me feel very grateful. But it's just really amazing how it works, how you can take a situation where there's an obvious reason to be upset, and you can just turn it around and be happy about that exact same situation. Now I know that there are some, circumstances where you can't apply that and it's not going to work, the death of a loved one or something like that. But in most situations, you can really turn it around, and it really gives you a new perspective on everything in your life. It just amazes me how powerfully effective it is as a mood changer when you decide to focus on the things that you're grateful for rather than the things that, are upsetting you at the moment. So anyways, that's another thing that I just really love about, being over the age of 40 or having aged. Another thing that I really love about being this age is that I don't ever feel the need to compete with other women, especially in terms of materialistic possessions. I feel like whenever I was younger, especially in high school, it was all about that. Are you wearing the name brands? Are you wearing the designer shoes? Are you carrying a designer bag? And I went through that. And even after high school, I remember whenever I had one of my first real jobs and I was making really good money and I didn't have kids at the time, I was just always, every single time I would get a paycheck, I would buy another Coach purse, This was 15, 20 years ago, so Coach was the brand, to carry at the time. And after a while, I had so many, I think I had, I don't know how many I had, at least 6. And then I thought, why am I doing this? Who am I trying to impress? It just felt a little bit silly to me, because I thought to myself, what is it that attracts my attention in somebody? And for me, it's never, what brand or what label they're wearing. It might be to some other people, and that's fine. We all kind of value different things. But me personally, I don't ever feel the need to ever compete on that level with anybody. And I can certainly afford to spend more money on clothes and shoes and handbags and stuff like that if I wanted to. I just choose not to. It just really doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't do anything for me. Now, what does something for me, because like I said, when somebody catches my attention, it's never because I'm curious about what label they're wearing. It's always how it looks on their body, So for me, I am more motivated when somebody, especially my age, 40 and up, when somebody is real disciplined in their eating and they are really into fitness. It's those things that really impress me about somebody else. Not to say that I don't, care about having nice things. I definitely want a nice house. I want a nice car. I want my clothes to look nice on me. But I don't ever feel the need to overspend. And that also has a little bit to do with the fact that I'm a stay-at-home mom. And that is another thing that really, really motivates me as a person. Whenever I meet or know of a woman who works outside of the home and helps to provide for the family and also has children and is a good mom and is into fitness and she's just so perfectly well-rounded, that is total inspiration to me, because I am not a working mom. So I really admire these women that do it all, because it's hard enough when you're a stay-at-home mom, you know? And so I just can't imagine. I just think I just have so much admiration and respect for working moms. So anyways, I just love that I don't feel the need to compete like that, because I do remember having felt that way at one time. And to me, it just wasn't a good feeling. It was just like, who can outdo who, you know? Just seemed kind of silly in the big scheme of things. And not to say that, you know, I'm going to impose that on my 11-year-old daughter. You know, I know she's already, right now, she's in junior high and she's starting to want, you know, different, she wants Nikes and she wants Converse and she wants all these different, you know, things that are in style right now. And, you know, we let her have those things. You know, she has about 4 pair of Nikes and a pair of Converse. So we definitely let her be a little girl and like those things and like to impress other people with those things, because, you know, I remember being that age and I remember how important it was. But it's just not important to me anymore. So anyways. Okay, and so the last thing that I really love about being the age that I am, almost 45 years old, is that I just really love, more than anything, more than any role that I've ever played in my life, I love being a parent. It is a role that I take very seriously. I just feel like every day is an opportunity to teach and to learn from your children and to lead by example, to bond with them. And I love every stage of their aging process. You know, I feel like every age brings a new dynamic, and it's just so interesting, and it actually makes me really appreciate my parents even more. You know, I feel like I'm so lucky. This is another thing. I just feel so grateful, because not only did I have a wonderful mom and did I have a wonderful dad, I have a wonderful stepmom and I have a wonderful mother-in-law and father-in-law. I just feel like I'm so lucky because I have such wonderful people who have played a parenting role in my life. And, you know, I feel like I would have never come to appreciate them as much as I do had I not had my own children and had I not, you know, raised my own children. So I just feel like everything kind of makes a full circle, you know. I have never appreciated my parents more than I do now, you know, especially growing up. But now I get it, you know, this light bulb went off and I'm just like, man, you know, y'all are pretty dang wonderful. And they all bring something different to the table. Like, none of them bring the same thing to the table. They all have something unique that they bring, and they enrich my life in a certain way. And I hope that I enrich my children's lives that way. And I hope that they remember, you know, whenever they grow up and they have children of their own, that they look back and go, I had a pretty good mom, you know? So it's gonna make me emotional, oh my God. And, you know, I feel like I have embraced motherhood more than anything that being an adult, you know, has to offer. And the reason I feel like I can say that, and this is kind of a funny little reason, but I was watching The Bachelor the other day, and I don't typically watch shows like that, but my sister's been wanting to talk to me about some of the characters and stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do some laundry and I'll go get it on demand or whatever. And I started watching some of them, and I noticed that whenever they wouldn't get a rose and they would be sent home and they'd be in the back of the limo crying and stuff, there was a time where, you know, when I was younger, had I watched that, you know, I would connect with the girl and think to myself, you know, how would I behave, or how would I react, or how would I respond and stuff like that. But that's not what I was doing the other day. Instead, I was sitting there having these little, you know, heart-to-hearts with these girls in the back, you know, of the limo crying. I was like, you know, it's okay, you know, everything's gonna be okay and you're gonna get through this, and, you know, everybody goes through a breakup, and, you know, there's a reason for unanswered prayers, and he's just not the one for you, and blah, blah, blah. You know, I was just going through just all these ways that I would try to, you know, comfort her and what she was going through. And so it was at that moment that I thought, wow, I have really arrived as far as, you know, being a mom and really embracing that part of me. So those are just some of the things that I just really love about being over the age of 40. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really encourage you to, you know, leave me a comment and let me just know something that you really like about being over whatever age you are, actually. You know, just a thought or idea or perspective that you could not have arrived at had you not aged. So I really look forward to reading those comments, and hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week.